All right. Very quickly, we're going into a quick reading from the author. And he's going to read a piece called The Silent Note, accompanied by the band. And there's going to be a video presentation in the background.
I loved music back in secondary school, not just because the notes looked like tadpoles hanging off a fence made of wires, but also because the teacher was a bit of an eccentric character. He never failed to disappoint, barking out in every single lesson of the term, "The order of the scale is tone, tone, semitone. Say it after me. Tone, tone, semitone." One of the very first symbols I learned about in a musical manuscript was called a semibreve or rest. This is actually a silent note that starts off the musical piece, punctuates it all the way through, and then rounds it off at the end. Those playing the overture had to read the silent notes as well as the audible ones. If the instrumentalists or singers failed to observe or play and sing the note, then the music would be out of sync, rhythm, and melody. The importance of the silent note could not be overlooked in the grand scheme of the musical masterpiece. Silence is not only for music, it is for life. And all through the several phases of our lives, we learn to be silent and we learn to speak. As a child, I got told off by adults, "Don't speak unless you're spoken to. Mommy is talking, be quiet. Be seen and not heard." Those instructions were frustrating because as far as I was concerned, I had a lot I wanted to say. As maturity came, I realized there was wisdom in the rebukes I received to hold my peace until I was allowed to speak. Sometimes the wisdom of our thoughts can only shine through after a moment of meaningful silence. Do you know anyone who's a chatterbox? They are nice for a while, but then as they grow on you, all you can think of saying to them is, "Why don't you just shut up?" The poem from which we get the saying, "Silence is golden," goes something like this. Silence is the element in which great things fashion themselves together, that at length they may emerge, full-formed and majestic, into the daylight of life, which they are thenceforth to rule. Do this thyself, hold thy tongue for one day. On the morrow, how much clearer are thy purposes and duties? Speech too is great, but not the greatest. As the Swiss inscription says, "Sprechen ist Silban, Schweigen ist Kalt." Or as I might rather express it, speech is of time, silence is of eternity. When we are conceived, we do not have a voice for the first 9 months of our existence. We are forming in the dark, playing the silent note, and then we come out loudly, crying and being cried for, fully formed for the next phase of our journey. The first silence is broken, we arrive on the scene, and the melody of our life begins. The same principles follows us through as we become the silent apprentices, watching the master work until it is our time to perform our own tasks. We are the silent student, watching the instructor lead until we become the graduate. We are the silent daughter, watching the mother weave the family together until we become the wife and the mother of our own. We are the silent idea that no one knows about until the work in secret is revealed to the world, and then our product precedes us, going places we could only have dreamt about. We learn to withhold action and we learn to take it. We learn that the season and timing of our silence is key to the rendition of the musical masterpiece our lives have become. We learn to prepare for the next great note to be played in that moment of silent rest. In the 2013 BBC Proms, Daniel Barenboim, the world-renowned conductor presiding over Wagner's Ring Circle, had been faced with a remarkable 10 seconds of silence following the orchestra's final note. As an impressed audience sat entirely still, after a rapt silence, more than 5,000 people in the Royal Albert Hall erupted into applause reported to have lasted up to half an hour. The audience had heard the music. They had acknowledged the final note, the silent note. The silence indicating that the piece was done. It was masterfully played, intricately presented, and beautifully completed. Silence was all that was needed at that point. When they took in what had just happened, what had just graced their ears, they could not help but respond in thunderous applause and appreciation for music well played. When my life is lived out and my journey done, when I give my final performance, my best, and I come to a rest offering my final silent note, I would like to think that even though I can't hear it or see it, there would be a thunderous applause, a vast appreciation for what I have done. that it would outlast me for generations to come. I have finished well. I have played masterfully. I have lifted the spirits of my audience. And now it's time for those who watched me perform to respond.
Come on, let's put our hands together and appreciate Olaolu Faj Opebiyi. While he's still standing there, I'm going to let him immediately go into his vote of thanks. So one more time, let's put our hands together for the man of the moment.